Hello kids! I am your communications master and for today, we will be solving a communication problem. Can you help me? Nice! Kids, imagine an accountant and an investor in a meeting conversing with each other. The accountant tries to present the company's financial standing. However, there seems to be a problem between the two because of the jargons that the accountant is using that don't seem clear to the investor. What can happen then?
Good day, Mr. De Santos. I am Priel, accountant/chief finance officer of the ABC company. I am here to present our financial statements for the year 2020. So to start with, based on the annual report, the company's financial position remained vigorous this year. As of December 31, 2020, our consolidated total assets stood at 1.82 trillion, which is 141.1 billion higher than that of the last year. Consolidated cash balance increased also by 43.3 billion, ending at 286.5 billion as of December 31, 2020. Are you following, sir?
Hello, Miss Almacen. Thanks for the report. But you lost me at Vigorius. I don't seem to understand what you are talking about. Can you please elaborate further?
Oh, my apologies. What I meant to say is that for this year, the company's current covenant is now based on a consolidated net debt to total equity, which should be the consolidated total interest expense.
I'm sorry. I am so lost. What do you mean by company's covenant and the consolidated something? These words are not really familiar to me. I think you as an accountant does not speak a language similar to me as an investor. I believe I might have to reconsider investing in your company. For now, let us reschedule this meeting.
Not a problem, sir. I understand. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today.
It's a chaos, right? Kids, the conversation that you just heard reflects the usual transactions that happens between accountants and investors when communicating directly about financial statements. One may be more knowledgeable about the discussion as compared to the other. As observed, the meeting between them did not really go as planned. How much more if they are discussing about web-based financial reports where there is no direct interaction between them? How will the accountant and the investor achieve success in their communication process? Let's go find it out, shall we? To help us solve the problem and to answer our questions, we will ask help from our communication reporters. First, let's get to know the background of the problem. Can you help me locate which among these icons can we learn about the background? Oh, there it is! Kids, to discuss the brief background of the existence of the problem, let's listen to Kate. Hello everyone, I am Kate Almacen and I will be talking about the background of our group's communication problem. Let's start by defining some terms. According to Weigand et al., accounting is defined as the process of identifying, measuring, and delivering economic information in such a way that users of this information can make decisions. Accounting information, on the other hand, is delivered through the financial statements to various users, including stakeholders in the organization, the company management, current and anticipated stakeholders, creditors, government bodies, employees, suppliers, and clients. This information is one of the most important material that investors rely on in stock markets. So basically, the end goal of accounting is for accountants to produce financial statements, and through those financial statements, we will be able to provide accounting information to different entities. But what happens if there's a defect in those information? Any defect in this information leads to information asymmetry available to investors, which contributes to low efficiency of the financial market and is directly reflected in stock prices. That is according to the study of Al-Shabib and Al-Jabouri. But what is information asymmetry, Kate? Well, the next reporter will introduce you to that. In line with this, the internet and in particular the World Wide Web are changing the reach, timing, and economics of the communication of accounting information fundamentally. The web provides an opportunity for the mass customization of information in a manner that is impossible with printed documents. This means that using the web, users of financial statements can selectively review the same body of material, freeing the accountants from the task of tailoring it for different users. As the supply of web-based financial information increases, the user's demand for web-based financial reporting is also increasing. Now that we know the background, This time, let's learn about the bird's eye view of the communication problem from Dannah.
Again, I am Dannah Marie Zamoras, and I will be reporting the bird's eye view of communication problem. The communication problem that we aim to address is the information asymmetry between accountants and investors. As we all know, the disclosure of the corporate financial statements should provide similar information to all parties and to reduce or remove any discrepancy of information among the investors. But this is not always the case. By definition, information asymmetry is the disparity and divergence in the information available for the owners of different stakeholders in the company, investors, creditors, management, and others. It also occurs when one party to an economic transaction possesses greater material knowledge than the other party. This typically manifests when an accountant of a firm possesses greater knowledge than the users of the financial statements, making the communication of the accounting information challenging for the users. To this end, by creating a communication model, our group aims to provide solutions to the information asymmetry occurring between accountants and the potential and existing investors in communicating web-based financial reports, which creates great impact to the misunderstanding and miscommunication between both parties.
Kids, I know you're getting tired of hearing all these words, so I'm sure you'd love to see some shapes and symbols. Here is a graphic presentation of the communication model to be reported by Ronah.
I am Ronah Abigail Bejoc, and I am assigned to present to you the communication model that my group has came up with. Our communication model is called Web-Based Information Asymmetry Communication Model. To start, accountants, who are the sources of our web-based information, need to possess credibility, authenticity, and information technology skills so that he or she may effectively communicate the financial reports. Speaking of which, our message, which comes in the form of financial reports, also play an important role because if it is not comprehensible, it may cause misunderstandings and miscommunications. Hence, financial reports need to comply with the IASB qualitative characteristics of financial statements. They should also contain infographics and visuals, present summarized and detailed information, and does not comprise too much jargons which investors are not able to understand or are not familiar with. On the part of the investors, who are the receivers of the message, they should not merely receive information but also do their part to effectively interpret information by identifying credible sources, using their analytical skills in interpreting data, and by being knowledgeable about calculating basic financial ratios, which is convenient on their part. One thing that makes this model unique is that the feedback that we gather from the investors are not usually relied back to the accountants who are the sources of our message. Usually, they are impliedly shown through the investor's loyalty, advocacy, and amount of invested capital to the company. However, they can also be expressed through the sending of emails to the company. Lastly, our group has also identified the barriers affecting the model and have provided remedies and solutions so that these barriers will not interfere with the goal of effective communication between the accountants and the investors.
Wow! That's a very detailed discussion, right? Now, I'm really curious about the components that were mentioned. To tell us more about it, let us hear from Lady.
Again, this is Lady, and for this afternoon, I'll be talking to you about the media credibility theory. For the factors that we identified under each component, these were derived from the media credibility theory, which explains how the effectiveness of a communication process is affected by the perceived credibility and characteristics of the source of the communication, which greatly influences the receiver's acceptance of the message. Moreover, empirical research has found that media credibility is an important part, along with message and and audience characteristics of effective communication. Next, let's talk about the description and special features of this communication model. First, let's have the source, or specifically the accountants. We identified factors that an accountant must possess in order to correctly send out the message. So what are these? These are the credibility, authenticity, and information technology skills. So first, let's have the credibility. In today's global data-driven culture, credibility is more important than ever for accountants. As an accounting professional, one should provide all relevant information that can reasonably be expected to influence intended users' understanding of financial information, reports, or other documents. Next, we have the authenticity. Being honest and authentic in interactions with clients, prospects, and co-workers will allow an accountant to be able to get things done and ultimately lead the firm forward. Lastly, we have the information technology skills. So on a basic level, accountants must be very computer savvy and comfortable with technology, as most modern organizations use a variety of different accounting information systems to manage their accounting activities. As an accountant, they might be expected to have a strong background in a number of applications, including finance-related software systems, such as the Microsoft Excel and data modeling programs, among others.
It just gets interesting, right, kids? I think Luzelle has something for us too.
My name is Luzelle Ampoloquio, and I will be discussing the next line. Secondly, under the message sent out by the accountants in the form of web-based financial reports, we identified 4 features that most users find in financial reports, including the incorporation of the International Accounting Standards Board, or IASB, qualitative characteristics, the use of infographics and visuals, summarized and detailed information, and the limited use of jargons. Speaking of incorporation of the IASB qualitative characteristics, the qualitative characteristics of financial statements are divided into 2 major components. First is fundamental qualitative characteristics, and the second is enhancing qualitative characteristics. Fundamental qualitative characteristics are used to identify the usefulness of a financial information, while enhancing qualitative characteristics are merely used to enhance the usefulness of a financial information. We also have the use of visuals in infographics. Reading an annual report becomes very inconvenient, especially when there are huge volumes of text and tables that readers would need to go through to find relevant information. Hence, using charts and infographics to essentially show and not tell makes it easier for the users to read and interpret data. Third is the summarized and detailed information. The use of headings that summarize key types of information is a good way to guarantee that the readers of an annual report will not be bombarded with unnecessary information. This ensures that readers can select only the information that interests them, while all key summary points are still presented in the form of headings or modules. Lastly is the limited use of jargons. As an accountant, jargons are commonly used, but there is no assurance that all investors are knowledgeable of all the transaction that may happen between them and the company. The use of jargons may interfere the effective communication between the investors and accountants, as it may lead to confusion, which may result to an unfavorable part to the company. Hence, it is important to limit their use.
Kids, I know you want more, so let's hear it from John Mark.
Again, this is John Mark Maambong. Thirdly, on the part of investors who are the receivers and users of the financial reports, we have identified some characteristics that investors must also observe among themselves in order to easily understand and interpret financial reports. Investors must also play their parts beside merely receiving the message by identifying credible websites with its author credentials, possessing analytical skills, and having sufficient knowledge in financial ratios. First is the identification of credible websites and authors' credentials. In using the web to gather information about financial standing of a company, investor must first determine whether or not a particular entity they wish to gather information about has an official website with reliable information and provides the credentials of the author or the accountants making such financial reports. Investors also need analytical skills. Analytical skills basically revolve around through evaluation of risk, financial health, performance, and future prospects, providing useful insights that enable effective decision-making to the investors. It is important that they also have knowledge on basic financial ratios. Financial ratios are tools used to assess the relative strength of companies by performing simple calculations on items on income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statements. By having knowledge using the widely popular and arguably indispensable technique of financial ratio analysis, investors can gain profitable advantages in stock market.
Now I'm starting to grasp the whole concept. How about you? If it ain't enough, don't worry, cause Angela has something to add too.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Angcay. Next is the channel used to convey these financial reports from accountants to investors, which is the internet, particularly the World Wide Web. The group specifically chose this means instead of the traditional printed financial report because, as mentioned, as the supply of web-based financial information increases, users' demand for web-based financial reporting is also increasing. Furthermore, the use of internet is very predominant now, especially due to the pandemic, wherein we cannot really interact personally. Lastly is the feedback of the investors. Whether potential or existing, we have researched that they usually do not come expressly to the accountants making the financial report, especially for web-based financial reporting. Instead, feedbacks are impliedly shown on the investors' loyalty, advocacy, and the amount of their invested capital towards the company owning the financial reports. If the accountants have effectively communicated the financial reports to the investors, if satisfied with the company's financial standing, will really invest their money to the company and prove their loyalty and advocacy towards it. Otherwise, investors may choose to pull out their shares in the company and find other companies worth investing their money on. However, there are also means for them to provide expressed feedback through emails and the like, but it is not usually the accountants who are tasked to receive them.
This time, let's have Mary Joy to add few more details.
I am Mary Joy Aquino, and in this talk, we're going to talk about the different types of communication barriers, and I would like to concentrate more on credibility barriers and interactive barriers. So, effective communication is not always straightforward, and barriers can easily get in the way. As a result, the group identified and selected communication barriers that may occur and are relevant, especially communicating information through the use of the web. These barriers include credibility, interactive, semantic, and technological barriers. First is credibility barriers. Credibility barriers interfere with digital communication when people cannot trust the message, the messenger, or both. And in order to avoid these barriers, it is important that accountants build and develop trust with these web-based users of financial reports by presenting their credentials in the reports they publish and by showing information which are relevant and faithfully represented. Second is the interactive barriers. Things can be explained better when there is a direct interaction between the persons who want to make transaction, which is not the case for web-based transactions and communications. And to solve this, both parties, the accountants and investor, will need to do their parts as explained earlier. For accountants, they need to be credible, authentic, and should possess information technology skills so that they may present the financial reports effectively. On the other hand, investors should know how to select credible sources, be analytical, and be knowledgeable to interpret financial reports effectively. Even without direct interaction, interactive barriers may be avoided if both parties only do their parts.
And to complete the discussion, we have here Harlie.
I am Harlie de Los Santos. So our third barrier is the semantic barrier. The meaning of words, signs, and symbols might be different from one person to another, and the same word might have hundreds of meanings. So, when a message is sent by a sender to a receiver, it might be interpreted wrongly in a communication process, causing misunderstandings between them. So this can also be the case in the use of the jargons because, as discussed earlier, the use of jargons may lead to confusion, especially to investors not knowledgeable about these terms. In order to avoid this, limiting its use and using layman's terms are preferred. And lastly is the technological barriers. With the advancement of the generation, businesses also venture in engaging with the use of technology. With the modernization, some investors and even accountants may not completely cope with or use technology properly. Thus, it is important that investors and accountants both possess the same level of technological skills, as these will create a bona fide settlement and promote a smooth flow of communication between them, especially when using web-based financial reports.
Kids, to finally conclude everything, let us hear from Romer.
Hello everyone, I'm Romer Sanchez, and I will be reporting for our conclusion. So we all know that today, web-based communication is a fertile ground for information sharing between accountants and investors. With the spread of websites designed for sharing financial information to others, it is a common practice of entities to broadcast general-purpose financial reports that propagates across online network. In order to address information asymmetry which is present between accountants and investors, the group designed a communication model which aims to resolve this issue and effectively communicate web-based financial information to users. The communication model designed by the group can address information asymmetry as it enumerates the factors and functions of each component and the barriers that may impede the smooth flow of communication through considering the media credibility theory. Web-based information asymmetry communication model also serve a valuable purpose in preventing information asymmetry between accountants and investors on financial reports because it allows them to see specific concepts within the process of communication and apply communication concepts conveniently. When they become aware of how communication functions, they can think more deliberately through their communication encounters, which can help them better prepare for future transactions and learn from their previous communication. And that is all for our conclusion.
Whew, I can hear your deep sighs. It has been a long journey of learning, right? But hang in there, we're almost done. Now, it's time to apply what we've learned from all of our communication reporters. Kids, imagine, again, a meeting between the accountant and the investor, only this time it is virtual because of this pandemic.
Good day, Mr. De Los Santos. If you remember, I am Priel, the accountant/chief finance officer of the ABC company. I am here to discuss about our financial statements for the year 2020. I have already sent you through an email the summary of our annual report. I also had it simplified through the use of infographics so you will be able to understand it easily. I would like to confirm if you have read and understood the email, sir.
Hello, Miss Almacen. Yes, I have received your email last night and I was able to understand it much more easily. Your simplified use of accounting jargons really helped me a lot. Thank you. By the way, according to the report, the company is 25% more profitable than last year. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, that's right. We are doing better than we did last year, and we can assure you that we can do better next year and for the years to come.
I see. Again, thank you for this. I decided that I want to invest in your company. My staff will reach out to the company anytime this week.
Oh, that is good news. Thank you so much for trusting ABC company, sir.
See right there, kids? The interaction between the accountant and investor in an online setting improved the communication process by making use of the infographics and the like. Through the use of our communication model, even if the meeting took place virtually and there was no direct contact between the two, they were still able to meet halfway and had a common understanding that resulted to a good outcome. And finally, we're done! Thanks for hanging out till the end and helping me solve our communication problem. See you on our next communication escapade. Bye-bye!